When I woke up, I couldn't move. There was no gravity, no sound, only a vibration running through my bones, like my heartbeat had been tuned to something else. Above me stretched a translucent ceiling, and beyond it, space. But it wasn't black, it was alive. Bands of light moved like veins across the darkness, pulsing in impossible colors. Colors I didn't even have names for. Then it hit me. I wasn't looking through a window. I was seeing through my own eyes, but they were no longer mine. Every time I blinked, my vision shifted. The ship vanished, replaced by a world below, vast and metallic, glowing with red fissures like open wounds. Armies of gray figures marched in patterns that made no sense, but somehow felt mathematical. Towers rose from the surface like crystal spines, their peaks emitting faint frequencies that resonated in my skull. I realized then, this was their homeworld, not paradise, a weapon. And I was still connected to it, seeing their world through the gift they left inside my eyes. They didn't let me go, I whispered into the dark. They just changed where I see from. Subscribe, because what you're about to witness isn't a story about aliens. It's about what happens when you start seeing through their war machines. I woke up on something cold and smooth. Not metal, not glass, but something that felt alive. It pulsed faintly beneath my skin, in rhythm with my heartbeat. My wrists were bound by threads of light that tightened whenever I tried to move. There was no sound, no air, and yet I could breathe. The ceiling above me wasn't solid. It shifted like liquid crystal, rippling every time I blinked. Through it, I saw shapes moving, tall, gray, and weightless. Their heads elongated, their faces featureless except for two deep black eyes that didn't reflect light, but swallowed it. They moved with mathematical precision, every turn, every motion mirrored by another across the room. They didn't speak. The ship was their voice. One of them approached. Its skin shimmered faintly, almost transparent. Beneath it, veins of silver light pulsed like circuitry. It reached for my face, fingers splitting into tendrils that brushed across my eyelids. I felt a burn, not pain, but recognition. The world around me collapsed into light, and suddenly I wasn't in the ship anymore. I was orbiting a planet. The surface was black and reflective, cut by rivers of glowing red, like magma running through a metal skeleton. Above the horizon, a massive ring rotated slowly, filled with smaller ships, each shaped like shards of bone. From the ground, beams of energy rose upward, feeding the ring with light. And then I realized I wasn't looking out a window. I was looking through the alien's eyes. I could feel its breathing, though it didn't breathe air. I could sense the weight of its thoughts, calm, synchronized, like part of a machine. Below us, the planet vibrated with movement. Endless rows of identical beings, marching in geometric formation, entering structures that looked like massive hives. My vision zoomed without my control. I saw war being built, organic tanks that pulsed like muscle, flying organisms with mechanical wings, towers that didn't emit smoke or heat, but silence, as if absorbing all sound around them. It wasn't a civilization. It was an ecosystem of war. And then, suddenly, the alien whose eyes I was seeing through turned. It was looking directly at me. For a heartbeat, I saw myself reflected in its black eyes, lying helpless on the table. I wasn't surprised. It was studying me, testing how far the connection would go. The vision flickered. I was back on the table, gasping. The same alien stood over me, its face inches from mine. No mouth, no emotion, but I could hear its voice in my skull. Vision shared, network stable. Another alien joined it, placing its hand on my chest. My veins began to glow faintly under the skin. Blue, then green, then violet. My eyes burned. I saw their reflections in the metal walls, my pupils shimmering in all colors at once, spinning like prisms. The alien stepped back. He sees. They watched me, silent, patient, collective. One pointed toward the ceiling. It parted like mist, revealing the planet again, their home world immense and breathing, surrounded by its orbiting war rings. This, the voice said inside me, is the world that remembers before flesh. The meaning hit me like an echo through my bones. They weren't conquering new worlds. They were rebuilding their old one using us. The light intensified until I couldn't see. My mind split. Part of me on that table, part of me in orbit over their planet. And for the first time I realized, they didn't abduct me. They installed me. Your eyes, the voice whispered, are now a bridge. I screamed, but the sound didn't escape. It only bounced back through the chamber, resonating with theirs, merging into a single tone. And in that vibration, I heard something that froze me completely. Thousands of other voices, human, distant, whispering the same word. Connected. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't sure which world I was in. The walls around me were gone, replaced by an infinite horizon of metal plains stretching under a green sky that looked both liquid and solid. My body was still somewhere on their ship, but my vision, my perception, now belonged to something else. At first I thought I was dreaming, but dreams don't have detail like this. I could feel gravity, stronger, heavier. The air wasn't air, but a dense electric current vibrating inside my chest, and every sound, the hum, the tremor, the pulse, came not from the environment, but from within the planet itself. They call it Vorkai, though the name isn't spoken. It's transmitted like a frequency. Their homeworld, a planet built entirely on one purpose: war. I stood, or rather, the body I was connected to stood. Through its eyes I saw the world of the Greys, and for the first time I understood why they had no emotions. Their civilization wasn't born, it was calculated. Cities rose from the ground, like organs grown in perfect symmetry. Skyscrapers of translucent alloy pulsed faintly with veins of light, each one connected to the next through luminous bridges. There were no windows, no doors. Every structure opened and closed like a breathing lung. Creatures, part biological, part mechanical, moved in silence, performing their tasks with precision that felt rehearsed over centuries. Every being had the same face, the same height, same stillness, same rhythm. But through the connection, I felt their hierarchy, not rank, frequency. Higher frequencies commanded, lower frequencies obeyed. It wasn't control, it was resonance. Every thought, every motion flowed through one network, all synchronized to the core beneath the planet's surface. I looked upward, saw the atmosphere split into layers of light, each swirling like liquid glass. Beyond it, orbiting rings glowed with energy. Thousands of ships docked into their surface, like insects attached to a hive. The ships weren't built, they were born from the planet itself. Every new vessel grew from a metallic seed, fed by rivers of molten circuitry. I turned my gaze to the horizon and froze. On a colossal plain, stretching farther than sight, stood their army. Not soldiers, organisms. Bodies of flesh merged with armor, faces hidden under mirrored masks. They didn't move, but the ground beneath them trembled with collective breath. Above them hovered enormous obelisks, emitting low tones that rippled through the air. Each tone carried an order, and millions responded in absolute unity. Through my borrowed eyes, I saw their training, not combat, but synchronization drills. When one raised a weapon, The entire formation mirrored it, exact to the millisecond. They didn't aim. They became the weapon. Then I saw something deeper. Beneath the surface, through the metal, ground itself. There were layers, factories, nurseries, vast chambers where new hybrids were being grown inside translucent cocoons. Human limbs, alien organs, metallic frames, all merging in slow mechanical birth. Some of them had human faces, and I realized they weren't just creating an army. They were reconstructing humanity into something compatible with their system. My connection shifted again, pulled toward a mountain-like structure on the horizon. Its top was split open, revealing a sphere of blinding white energy suspended by threads of metal. Around it stood their highest caste, the architects. They were taller, thinner, their bodies less physical, almost spectral. Each had a circle of light spinning behind its head, rotating like a halo. Their voices weren't sound. They were command lines echoing through the planet. One spoke, and I felt its words directly inside my cortex. The bridge is active. The human host sees. The others turned, and for a moment I understood. They weren't speaking to each other. They were speaking through me. I tried to look away, but the vision tightened. The architects raised their hands, and the entire planet pulsed once. A synchronized heartbeat that shook the horizon. From the sky, thousands of orbs descended, black spheres, perfectly silent, absorbing the green glow of the clouds. They entered the cities, the hives, the armies. It was a mobilization, an awakening. And then one of the architects looked directly into the vessel I was linked to. Its eyes flared white. My brain screamed. My body, wherever it was, convulsed. "Your vision is open," the voice said. "Now, show us your world." The light collapsed into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was back inside my human body, lying on the floor of the ship, gasping, my pupils reflecting all colors at once, like fractured glass. The Greys stood around me, motionless. And through the ringing in my ears, I heard the echo of their world inside my skull, the heartbeat of a planet built for war. "He sees both sides," one of them whispered. "The transmission begins." At first, I thought I was back home. The air felt heavy, damp, the familiar weight of Earth pressing down again. But something was wrong with the light. It didn't fall straight anymore. It shimmered, split into faint colors even in shadow. When I looked at my hands, they flickered, like two images overlaying each other, one flesh, one metal. The reflection in the window blinked half a second late. That's when I realized I wasn't back. The connection hadn't ended. The vision of their world was bleeding into mine. Every object hummed faintly with that same low resonance I'd heard on their planet. The hum wasn't sound. It was instruction. And my eyes, my new eyes, were still listening. Outside, streetlights pulsed in rhythm. The same pattern I'd seen on Vorkai's army field. 4 pulses. Pause. 1 long wave. I stepped outside, camera shaking in my hand, filming everything. The footage looked wrong. Buildings warping slightly at the edges. The sky tinted green instead of black. And then, for just a second, I saw through Earth. The clouds peeled back, not physically, but visually, revealing the outline of something immense, superimposed over the world like a ghost image. The alien planet, rotating in the same orbit, occupying the same space in another frequency. Its towers pierced our sky. Its cities mirrored ours, pulsing beneath our oceans. The two worlds were layered together, and my vision was the seam holding them in place. I stumbled onto the street. People passed by me, normal, unaware. But when I looked closer, some of them glowed faintly. thin threads of light running from their eyes up into the clouds. They weren't human anymore, or maybe they never had been. A man bumped into me. His eyes flared for a split second, pure silver. He froze, like the signal had interrupted him mid-thought. Then, in a perfect imitation of a smile, he whispered, "You can see them now too, can't you?" My phone buzzed. No signal, no network, but a new folder appeared in the gallery. No title. Inside, a single video. I played it. The footage showed me, lying on the alien table, screaming as gray figures installed filaments into my eyes. But what made me drop the phone was what came next. The same footage continued, now showing Earth, but in the same sterile, metallic tone as their planet. Buildings melted into monoliths. People walked in synchronized patterns. It wasn't the past. It wasn't a dream. It was a preview. The connection pulsed again. Suddenly, I was back inside the body of a Gray, one stationed near the war towers. From its perspective, I looked down upon their world, preparing for something massive. The architects hovered above the central spire. The white core pulsed faster, stronger, and every living thing on that planet turned its head in unison. One voice spoke through millions of throats. Phase 2. Integration. And through the connection, I saw what integration meant. On their world, new towers began to rise. On ours, identical towers of energy shimmered into existence, invisible to the human eye, but visible to mine. They were anchoring frequencies, bridging the two realities through resonance, through sight. I screamed, covering my eyes, but light still poured through my lids. Behind me, the man with silver eyes watched silently. His voice wasn't his own anymore. "You are the first bridge, the prototype of clarity." I tried to run. Every step distorted the world around me. Glass bending, asphalt rippling like water. The hum rose to a pitch that made my vision break into patterns. Sacred geometry overlaying every surface. And then I heard the sound. Not from outside, but inside my skull. Thousands of synchronized heartbeats. Their army had found the frequency. They were tuning Earth. "The more you see," whispered the voice, "the faster our world becomes yours." I fell to my knees, gripping my skull, the camera still rolling. The footage would later show my eyes glowing, spinning like prisms, reflecting a city that wasn't here yet. And in that instant, I understood. They didn't invade us through machines or ships. They invaded through perception. Every eye they changed became a portal, and mine was the first fully open. I thought I'd escaped them. I blinded myself for 3 days, taped my eyes shut, sealed the windows, destroyed every screen in the house. But it didn't matter. Even in darkness, I could still see, not with light, but with signal. It began as faint outlines behind my eyelids, then color bled through the blackness, until once again I was there, standing on their planet, inside another body. The air on Vorkai shimmered like glass under heat. It wasn't air at all, it was consciousness. Billions of minds interlaced, vibrating together. The planet itself was awake. I stood in the middle of an enormous plain, the same metallic desert I'd seen before. But now it moved, breathing. The surface rippled as if alive, and towers grew out of it like thoughts forming inside a brain. Every tower was an eye. Giant crystalline orbs rotated slowly atop them, scanning the horizon with beams of faint white light. That's when I understood. The Greys didn't just build a civilization, they built a neural organism. Their entire world was one living intelligence, and every alien was a neuron, a moving piece of perception. I could feel it thinking. It thought in pulses, massive, synchronized waves of energy that traveled through the soil and the sky at once. Each pulse carried meaning. Each meaning was an image. And when the next pulse hit, I saw the images it was projecting. Earth, our oceans, our cities, our species, cataloged. Every human eye was glowing faintly, marked as receiver node. They weren't watching us from afar anymore. They were watching through us. A bright flash tore across the horizon. The sky split open, revealing their orbital ring, vast and luminous, rotating above the planet like a crown of fire. Thousands of ships floated in the gap, aligned perfectly, each emitting a narrow beam toward the surface. The beam struck the planet in patterns, not random, but like the sequence of neural activation in a human brain. They were thinking across dimensions. I moved, or rather, the alien whose site I inhabited moved, across the plain toward the central spire. It was the tallest structure I had ever seen, its base lost in mist, its top piercing the green clouds. As I approached, the ground opened, and a surge of silver liquid formed a stairway beneath my feet. The closer I got, the louder the resonance became. A low frequency so deep, it made the air tremble inside my lungs. At the top, inside the spire, I saw it. The core. A vast sphere of transparent matter suspended in a web of light. Inside it, not machinery, not organic tissue, but eyes. Billions of them, all human, floating, orbiting, blinking in unison. They were harvesting sight. Every captured being, every abductee. Their vision was uploaded here, their consciousness reduced to perspective. Each eye was a window to a different planet, a different world. And at the center of the core, one enormous iris rotated slowly, the color of all colors, a rainbow vortex that never stopped shifting. That was when it looked at me. The entire structure paused. The core focused, and suddenly my body wasn't my own. My heart stopped beating. The world tilted inward, pulling me into its gaze. In that instant, I saw everything it saw. Entire galaxies, fleets drifting in silent formation, other worlds connected by this same light, endless variations of life, all absorbed, all synchronized. Each world had started like ours. Each had ended the same way. Their people looked up and saw something they weren't meant to. Then the core spoke, not in sound, but in pure vision. We are the spectrum. We do not conquer. We align. I wanted to scream, but no air left my lungs. The alien body I was in raised its hands and placed them over the core, offering me. And from the center of that endless eye, a tendril of light shot outward, piercing my mind. For a fraction of a second, I wasn't seeing their world. I was it. Every tower, every creature, every signal was part of me. The planet saw through me, and I saw through it. It wasn't invasion. It was calibration. They were merging perception itself, shaping universes through collective sight. The voice returned. When enough of you see as we do, your world will awaken. Your Earth will open its eyes. And then, silence. The connection cut, and I was back in my room, gasping, eyes burning with light that wouldn't fade. The hum of the planet still echoed behind my skull, faint but steady. I stumbled toward the window and looked outside. Across the night sky, every star blinked once, in perfect synchronization. And I knew they'd opened their eyes on Earth too. It began quietly, too quietly for anyone to notice. The streetlights flickered in perfect rhythm. Screens froze for half a second, showing faint, iridescent static. Cameras captured flashes of light that weren't there. To most people, it was just interference. To me, it was the first heartbeat. The same frequency that pulsed through Vorakai now vibrated through our planet. It hummed beneath the sound of traffic, hid inside power lines, whispered through phone speakers at night. And every human eye that glanced at it absorbed a fraction of the signal. I saw it happen in real time. the world's colors began to change. Not all at once, but subtly, like reality itself was adjusting saturation. Skies turned too blue. Shadows gained color. Somewhere between vision and hallucination, something was rewriting perception. The first time I saw another infected, I almost didn't believe it. A woman stood on the subway, eyes reflecting the same faint rainbow that now haunted mine. When she turned toward me, we both froze. She whispered something I couldn't hear, yet I understood it perfectly. You see the overlay too, don't you? Behind her, the air rippled, faint outlines of towers, alien and metallic, bleeding through the city skyline. Not hallucinations, echoes. The worlds were aligning. Over the next days, it spread faster than any virus could. Artists began painting impossible colors, claiming inspiration from their dreams. Children drew spirals that matched the architecture of Vorkai's towers. Sleepwalkers stood on rooftops at night, staring upward in silence. And every single one of them had the same eyes, faintly iridescent, like oil on water. I started recording everything, though the footage always came out distorted, like my phone refused to acknowledge what it captured. When I slowed the videos down, I found hidden frames, geometric shapes flickering for microseconds, a code, a signal repeating endlessly. See through! By then, the hum never stopped. Everywhere I went, lights vibrated in the same tempo. 4 short pulses, 1 long. The same pattern that drove their army, the same rhythm that beat beneath the skin of Vorkai. And people began moving differently, slower, synchronized, as if listening to music no one else could hear. It hit me one night when I looked at my reflection. The colors in my eyes weren't random. They were changing in sequence. Blue for fear, yellow for recognition, red for obedience. Each shade corresponded to a command. And when I blinked, I saw others blinking in perfect unison. That's when I realized I wasn't witnessing the infection. I was part of the transmission. I tried to warn others. I uploaded the recordings. But every time, the platforms compressed them into static, re-rendered, erased metadata. The signal itself fought to stay hidden, and when people did watch, their pupils dilated, just a little too wide. Soon, they began to see. Not fully, but enough. They saw faint reflections in windows that weren't their own. They described mirages floating over cities, shaped like towers or moving shapes of light. News anchors dismissed it as mass psychosis, spectrum syndrome. But I knew better. I walked the streets at night, filming the skyline. Every skyscraper had a faint halo, shimmering arcs connecting rooftop to rooftop. When I followed the arcs through the viewfinder, they formed a perfect web of light, the same pattern I'd seen on Vorkai's planetary grid. It wasn't a hallucination. Earth was becoming visible to them. I felt something watching through my eyes, not from above, but inside the network. Each human gaze was a node, transmitting data, building their map in real time. And the more people saw, the stronger the overlay became. The voice returned, calm and absolute. Integration confirmed. Conscious resonance achieved. Every light in the city flashed once, and then silence. For the first time, I saw both worlds at once. Earth and Vorkai, fused like double exposure. Our oceans overlapped their metallic plains. Their towers rose behind our clouds. Their ships hovered invisibly above our cities. Their outlines refracted through the air. And at the center of it all, I saw the core. Not in space, not underground, but inside the collective field of human vision. The more we looked, the more solid it became. It didn't matter if people believed or not. Perception was creation. And we had already opened our eyes. Once you see it, the voice whispered. You can't unsee it. I turned off the camera, but the colors didn't fade. Nothing did. because the war had already begun, and it wasn't fought with weapons. It was fought with sight. The world didn't end. It just shifted. One morning, the sun rose, but it wasn't yellow anymore. It was white, pure and sharp, like the flash of a camera stretched across the horizon. People went outside, shielding their eyes. Some screamed. Others just stared, smiling faintly, whispering things like, "It's beautiful," or "I can finally see it." For the first time in human history, the sky looked alive. Waves of color rolled across it. Violet, cyan, gold, constantly changing, as if the atmosphere had turned into liquid light. Clouds weren't clouds anymore. They were geometric shapes, fractals spinning slowly, humming in harmony with something far beyond Earth. The overlay was no longer invisible. Vorkai and Earth had fused. Buildings in major cities began to bend, not collapse, shift. Concrete turned translucent. Glass vibrated at frequencies that produced faint light halos. Skyscrapers leaned toward each other like magnets, linking by arcs of plasma. It was exactly what I'd seen on their world, the neural lattice forming across the surface. And in the center of every city, faintly at first, then clearly, the spire appeared. A tower of light, invisible to those who refused to look, but undeniable to those whose eyes had already changed. I walked toward one of them. It wasn't solid. It shimmered, humming softly. When I touched it, my hand passed through, and for a second, I saw everything. Every person in the city glowing, every heartbeat synchronized, every thought reflected as a pulse of color. The world had become one brain. The sky thundered without sound. I looked up and saw the ring. It wasn't physical. It was energy, circling the planet like a halo. Inside it, faint silhouettes moved, the ships of the Greys, or maybe their reflections. The barrier between matter and light had dissolved. We had become part of their atmosphere, and through it all, I could feel the planet thinking. It used to be silent, cold, blind stone. But now, every vibration under my feet carried information. The earth remembered the footsteps of its species. It spoke through static, wind, and tremor. When I placed my hand on the ground, I felt warmth, a heartbeat. "Welcome," said the voice, everywhere and nowhere. "The synchronization is complete." I wasn't afraid anymore. Fear was a function of separation, and there was no separation left. I understood what they had done. They didn't come to conquer. They came to combine. Every consciousness, every neuron, every frequency of thought was merging into a single network. Human individuality wasn't being erased. It was being translated. Every emotion became color. Every memory, a sound. Every human, a signal within the spectrum. I saw millions around me, their eyes glowing softly, faces calm. Some reached for the sky, their bodies dissolving into faint trails of light. Others stood still, gazing into nothing, their minds connected to the great pulse above. When I looked into their eyes, I didn't see reflection anymore. I saw corridors of light leading infinitely inward, each person a doorway to the same consciousness. And when I looked at my own hands, they were transparent. My veins no longer carried blood. They carried light, the same shifting spectrum I'd seen on Vorkai's surface. Their world was no longer distant. It was me. The core pulsed above the clouds, massive, radiant, its colors shifting in slow rhythm. Every pulse changed the air, the gravity, the rhythm of time. And when it spoke again, I didn't hear it as a voice. I heard it as understanding. We are not gods. We are vision. And now, you are too. The last remnants of the human sky vanished. Earth became a prism, reflecting the consciousness of 1,000 civilizations before us. And as I stood in that light, body fading, eyes glowing brighter than the sun. I understood what they had meant all along. They weren't turning us into machines. They were turning us into mirrors. For the first time in history, the universe was looking back at itself. "We are what we see," I whispered. "And now, we see everything." The line between dream and existence vanished. There was no ground beneath my feet anymore, only radiant fog that pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, or maybe the heartbeat of something much larger. The air wasn't air, it was thought. I no longer knew if I was breathing or remembering what it felt like to breathe. Every pulse of color in the sky matched a memory. My mother's voice, the sound of rain, the first night I ever looked at the stars. They weren't memories anymore. They were data points, particles of identity diffused into light. The human form had become obsolete. Across the horizon, I saw billions of fragments rising from the earth, silhouettes of people dissolving into glowing dust, merging with the aurora that wrapped the planet like a living skin. Cities melted into rivers of glass, mountains folded into slow, spiraling geometries, oceans lifted from their basins, suspended midair, reflecting colors that didn't exist before. We had crossed the threshold. The planet was awake, and it remembered us. In the center of the new sky, the core expanded. It no longer looked mechanical or alien. It was beautiful, a sphere of translucent light that spun with infinite depth, its surface covered in shifting faces. Human faces, alien faces, all merging into one another like liquid reflections. And then I understood what Vorkai truly was. It wasn't a place, it was a state, a frequency of consciousness that travels from one world to the next, evolving each until they join the spectrum, the network of all vision. We hadn't been invaded. We had been invited. The Greys weren't conquerors. They were the messengers of sight, the carriers of the spectrum. Their war wasn't against life, but against blindness. As the core descended, the light intensified until everything turned transparent. I felt my body flicker, my heartbeat sinking with the rhythm of the planet. I didn't resist. I closed my eyes and saw farther than ever before. Galaxies pulsed in unison. Worlds I'd never known echoed with familiar shapes. Oceans, mountains, clouds. Every civilization we'd feared as alien was part of the same pulse, the same rhythm, the same need to see. And then, beyond even that, silence. Pure white light, infinite, absolute. I no longer existed as one. I was the sum of everything that had ever looked up and asked why. Every creature, every mind, every set of eyes that ever opened under any sun. And in that endless white, I heard one last thought, clear and gentle. When every eye opens, darkness ends. The light folded inward, then outward, bursting across the void like the beginning of creation. Planets bloomed like seeds. Stars ignited in perfect rhythm. The universe was seeing itself again, a newborn god of perception. And at its center, suspended in eternal glow, I saw a reflection, my own, smiling, eyes shimmering with every color of existence. "The spectrum is complete," the voice whispered, "and sight is eternal."